Welcome. If you're just joining, this is Reverend Carity. We're going to give it just a few minutes. Everyone is starting to come on, so welcome. And so I'm just going to take just a minute to try to share this to Facebook. I gave everyone the link because sometimes Facebook doesn't like to cooperate with me. So I'm going to try to do that while you all are joining. So while I'm doing that, feel free to go into the chat box and just tell me a little bit like where you're from, what are you hoping to learn? I'm so excited that you're joining us live. Okay. Oh, good. So Allison is joining from St. Louis. Welcome. It was nice to see you in my inbox, Allison. Okay, good. So I'm going to go ahead and tell people what we're doing. Dun, dun, dun. And since everything does appear to be working, I'm going to go ahead and send the final broadcast to tell people that we are live. So thank you so much for sticking with me for these little last piddly things that we always do at the beginning. And then we're going to dive into it. All right, good. That email has been sent. I'm going to make sure that my computer is muted. Where's my mute button? Put that down to 0. That way I don't get any dings if anyone's emailing me. I don't hear it. Okay, excellent. I am so excited. Thank you everyone for joining. We are about to just get this show on the road. So just to make sure, the final test is, let me make sure my correct, good. Can you hear me clearly? Does my headset come through clearly? Just put a yes in there. Hi, Esther from Newton. Anna from London. Wonderful. Okay, everyone can hear me just fine. Wonderful. Good. Excellent. I love it whenever my technology cooperates. Like, this is my favorite thing. My technology is working. I've got my water. I've got my coffee. Thank you so much. I am so glad you're here. And before we really get started, thank you to everyone who's watching the replay, because I know there's going to be a lot of people who are watching the replay who couldn't come live. Apparently in my first intro email telling people thank you for joining this thing, I didn't put the time in there. So sorry about that to those who are watching the replay who wanted to attend live and didn't realize what time it was. But it's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific time every time I do this. So I'm really excited. Today we're going to do some meditation. We're going to do some overview, and we are going to do a prize. I had a lot of you fill out the little, I sent out a questionnaire. If you didn't hear about this last minute, then you got a little questionnaire. And you have the opportunity to tell me if you've ever ignored your intuition and why that happened. And so someone who did that is going to win a free 30-minute reading with yours truly. So I'm really excited. So I am going to start sharing my PowerPoint. So let me know, can you see the PowerPoint? Go ahead and put a 1 in the chat box if you can see the PowerPoint. That way we got it. Excellent. That is what I'd like to see. Excellent. I'm so pleased to see everyone here. In this first masterclass, we're doing a series of 4 of these puppies. And I'm doing 4 of these for one important reason. We're going to be tackling your intuition from 4 different angles. And the first angle, today's, is recognizing how intuitive hits come to you. Because everyone has a slightly different biology. Everyone experiences the world just a little bit differently. And so the intuitive hit that filters through me will feel different, look different, taste different than the intuitive hit that flows through you. And so today we're going to really dive deep into how those will appear. And then next time we're going to talk symbols. It's going to be really good. And this really is an action-oriented masterclass series. If you'd paid me $500, this is what I'd be teaching, right? I'm not selling anything the next 2 weeks. If you want to buy something, you're going to have to go to my website. And so, this is just training. This is me teaching you things. And because it's on my heart right now, as the world is going through some major shifts, that, a lot of the things that we're experiencing were preventable if we could have just all of us collectively, humanity, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, if all of us were listening to our intuition. And so it's really important to me to teach this anywhere and everywhere I can. So thank you for joining me live. If you know a friend later on that you want to share this with, share the link. It's free, always going to be free. They can join if they want. Okay, so you're absolutely in the right place if you've been trying to connect with your intuition or your spirit guides, but you're having a hard time hearing it. If it feels like you're struggling sometimes, or you find yourself doubting it all the time, you think you got an intuitive hit, but did you really? Did you just make that up, right? So if that's where you've been mentally and emotionally, then I got you. We're going to get this sorted. You have connected with your guides and intuition, but your life still really doesn't reflect what you truly desire. It's like, okay, I've been trying to follow my intuition, but I'm in a bigger mess now than whenever I started. So what's up with that? So usually that means you've got a block. Congratulations. This is part of what it means to be human. And it seems like your life doesn't quite feel on track despite your very best efforts to align. And you'd really prefer, if you had the option, and you do, to feel confident that you're actually connecting with your intuition and your spirit guides in the universe, and that you're interpreting those messages correctly. So if that's you, welcome. I'm so excited. You're not really in the right place if you're hoping to just kind of be passive. Like if you're passive and you're just kind of listening to listen because you're busy, go ahead, happy to have you. But if you're actually not very interested in learning this and actually doing things to help your intuition grow, then you're probably not going to get a lot out of this because I'm a bit action oriented and we do focus on how to grow the intuition. And just a little bit about me. Please feel free, as you have questions, pop them in the chat box. I won't necessarily stop presenting if I'm in the presentation phase to check the chat box, but I do revisit the chat box anytime I can. And if you're on Facebook, feel free to put it in the comments. I may not see them right now just because I'm live 2 places, but I will absolutely follow up after this ends with any comments that I didn't see while I was live. Okay, so what we're going to cover, we're going to talk about celebration and fun and how it raises your vibration so you can actually hear your guides more clearly. And this is going to be really important. And of course, we're going to do some belief busting. That's next after we cover what we're going to cover. And then we're going to talk about how to know what language your intuition is speaking to you so that you can actually hear them clearly, even if you think you've never heard them before, but you have, I promise. How to interpret what your guides are saying so that you can have accurate information all the time. We're going to be covering very quickly. We're going to get into this in more depth in future masterclasses, but we're going to talk about how to trust and act on the information. And I have an apostrophe that's going to bother me. Okay. In a double space. I apologize. Editing as I go here, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about how to trust and act on your intuition, but we're actually going to be covering that in the last 2 master classes in a lot of depth, because that is the one thing I've noticed. Like once we get our basic beliefs about intuition, you start to being able to interpret. I find a lot of people will just fall off because they don't know how to believe in themselves. They don't know how to believe in the universe. They don't know how to trust the universe as a whole. And so we're going to talk about that because you deserve to feel the love that the universe has for you, and you deserve to feel that self-trust with yourself. And so we're going to talk about how to do that. And we're going to do a quick bonus today. I'm going to train you super quickly on how to see auras with your physical eyes. This was a request that was given to me last time. I ran something similar. And so I did want to do it again because it was so much fun. So let's move on to party favors. Yay! So things I'm going to give away. I'm going to give away a free 30-minute reading with me, yours truly. And so again, if you did register earlier, then you did get an email with how to enter into that. And if you joined us last minute, that's fine. I've still got you. I've still got some cool things for you. We're going to do a free Talk to Your Guide meditation for anyone who participates. And by the way, participation means that if you have not filled out the quick little survey, it's just 3 questions. You'll get it again after the replay goes out on the email list. And you will have the opportunity, if you fill it out or when you fill it out, to get a free Talk to Your Guide meditation. And this is for 2 reasons. Number 1, you participating allows me to be more direct in how I teach, right? So this is a co-creation. This isn't just me lecturing like I'm a professor. This is genuinely and sincerely us creating something together. And so you'll get that sometime this afternoon. Now, you'll have the opportunity to get that free Talk to Your Guide meditation through Thursday. So on the 12th at 11 a.m., whenever I go live again, we're going to switch on to something new. I'll be doing something new at that point. And so we'll close up the free Talk to Your Guide meditation. We'll move on to something else. And so again, if you don't know what those questions are, don't worry. I'm going to send it in an email a little later today. And then there's also a super surprise bonus that I will reveal at the end of today. I'm excited. Okay. So I am going to go ahead. I had 24 entries. So I am going to go ahead and go to, I'm going to pick a number randomly, random number generator. And I'm going to have it pick a number between 1 and 24. And then that person will get a free reading from yours truly. And we got number 7. And so that is Jessica with 1 S. I know who you are. So if you're here live, you're going to get a free 30-minute reading from me. And I've made a note. You'll get an email a little bit later. So let's all say congrats to Jessica. And thank you, everyone, for joining and playing along. And so let me just make sure I'm not missing anything important chat-wise, and then we will go ahead and move on. Okay, great. Anya says, how long is the meeting? We're going to kind of see, Anya. I'm guessing this is going to be about 60 to 90 minutes. That's my best guess. But it's going to be however long it needs to be. I generally schedule 2 hours of my time for this just so that I'm not up against deadlines. But I'm guessing between 60 and 90 minutes is what we'll hit. Sherry says she sees auras with her eyes open. It's an amazing tool. It really is, Sherry. Okay, so my sound was gone for a second and now it's back. Okay, great. Wonderful. All right, thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. Okay, so a little bit about where I started. There we go. Flashback in 2011, when I very first started working with my intuition. Things were a little rocky. I cannot say that learning my intuition was smooth, and I can't say that I did a good job of listening in the early days. So in 2011, when I just started learning how to talk to my guides, my fiance left me for another woman the week after I'd called all my sisters to be bridesmaids. So I had to call everyone up again and be like, hey, you know how last week you said you'd be a bridesmaid? Cancel that because he left me for someone else. I was broke with no career, and I didn't have any marketable skills. So I guess I could have gotten a, really low paying wage. I could have done could have flipped burgers or something, but I wasn't really hireable. Like no one really wanted to hire me. And I had a chronic health condition, which meant I couldn't really work full time. And so it was like this really kind of mixture. I did not feel good about my life at this time, right? I didn't like it. I was not having fun. And so I want to give my past self a hug. So once I learned how to talk to my guides on purpose, how to really tune into my own inner knowing and my own intuition. So you'll see that's a picture of my husband. That's James. He's the love of my life. And, we met very quickly after my ex left me because I just got really, really serious about my intuition and developing it. And really taking it to the next level. And then I started a business, and that's why you know that I exist, because I've been doing this now for 8 years. And so that middle graphic is me goofing off in my business. And then I also was able to create a sustainable income by following my intuition. And now, we live in our dream home, and we live in a place that really feels like home, which is more important than like the house, is living somewhere where I feel nourished. And it's like the biggest blessing in the world. And so I really want to share this because I have been in a place where I didn't know how to use my intuition. I remember what it was like. And so I manifested both the love of my life and my career in 30 days. Right. And this is where it gets interesting because I didn't follow any of the normal advice about gratitude. I yelled at my guides. I did not say, oh, guys, this is definitely for my highest good, health, wealth, and happiness. Thank you so much for this challenge. I said, y'all better get this together because this is a mess and I'm not okay with this at all. Like, fix it. So I was not like whatever we typically see. And then here's the piece. After I vented, I actually was open to suggestions on what I needed to do. And that's when they told me what I needed to do in order to change my life at the core level. And at the time, it was a very specific type of love meditation. And I had to send love to my ex and the woman he left me for 30 days. And I was not thrilled about that assignment, as I'm sure you can imagine. And so I was like, all right, fine. If this is what it takes, this is what it takes. I did it. My husband showed up in my life within about a week. It became very obvious we were meant for each other. We were very compatible. And then I started my new career as a psychic within about a month of that. And so it was very fast. And that's whenever I became obsessed. My guides kind of threw me in the deep end. They were just like, oh, you're going to start training people in their intuition immediately. And I was like, I've been doing this for 45 days. So I immediately started training people on what I had learned over the last 30 days and over some of my other studies. And I've been doing that for the last 8 years. I wanted to know why whenever I started. I became really obsessed. I started coaching anyone who would let me. I was training anywhere they would let me in the door. I did in-person training for 2 years just because I wanted to get so much practice with teaching the intuition and understanding how other people's modalities worked. I wanted to know why so many people tried to connect with their guides and failed, and why some professional psychics seemed to never actually manifest what they actually wanted, even though they actually had the universe at their beck and call. So why is it that these psychics were so good at getting messages for others, but they couldn't seem to pay their bills on time, right? Why was it that these energy healers were so good at clearing everyone else's blocks, but their energy was a hot mess? I really wanted to know why that was. And so I've spent the last 8 years of my professional life working from different angles so I could learn exactly that. And so I want to teach you in this 4-class masterclass exactly what I've learned. So basically, long story short, my life took off the second I chose to listen to my guides and honor the messages through trust. And here's the other scary part, action, right? This is the part we're dedicating a whole 2 days to that action portion. But also the other piece is it took off whenever I specifically asked for what I wanted. I had to give myself that permission to want the things that I knew in my heart of hearts that I wanted, right? Because if you're not willing to give yourself permission to have the things that in your heart of hearts, and I'm not talking about, shiny object syndrome, or it would be very nice to have that, but I actually don't care, or what your mama wants you to have, or what your best friend thinks you should have. I'm talking about what you really want. If you can give yourself permission to have what you really want, and then you can learn to trust yourself, and you can learn to trust the universe, and you can learn to kind of decode how the intuition is speaking to you, you've got it. No matter what the universe hands to you, no matter what circumstances might pop up, you'll be okay, because you've got what it takes energetically, spiritually, to handle it. Okay. So any questions so far? Because so far, this is the intro to me. This is the only time I'm going to do a big intro to me. All right. So here's a couple things to keep in mind before we get to the number one block. Everyone is unique and has their own path, right? This is really important. I've mentioned this. I'm going to mention it many, many times. Your intuition isn't going to look exactly like mine. Your intuition is not going to look like whatever psychic or energy healer you have been to that you thought, oh, wow, that's what a real psychic is like. Or, oh, wow, that's what a real energy healer is like. That's not what it's going to be like. It's going to be unique to you. And I really want you to trust yourself as you play with these techniques. I really want you to play with them. The keys I'm about to share are skills, right? These are skills, which means that you can develop them. These are learnable. This is not something you're either born with or not. This is something that you can acquire. This is something you can master. This is something that you can take the time and energy and dedication to really turn this into a valuable asset day to day. And so everyone can learn psychic skills. And also every professional I know who's in this industry regularly works with these. They take their intuition to the next level. So I really want you to keep that in mind. If it's like, oh no, I've tried this once and I didn't know what to do. That's okay. There's lots of professionals who still revisit these often for that very reason. There's always another level. There's always another level. Okay, the 4 keys to connecting to your guides and your intuition. Number 1 is receive intuition. I promise you this is the easiest one. How to know if you're working with the first key? Just check, do you have a pulse? That's it. If you have a pulse, you are actively receiving intuitive information right now, right? That's all it takes. Key number 2, recognizing intuitive information. Now, this is where your conscious mind starts to enter in. Recognizing intuitive information is about knowing when it's intuitive information versus your ego or wishful thinking. It's about recognizing when it's intuitive information versus a fear, right? Key 3 is interpreting intuitive information correctly. And that takes a little bit of practice. And there are some hacks. There's some life hacks here that can make it super simple, even if it's really hard for you to understand your guides. I have some tricks up my sleeve that will make it a lot easier. And then key 4 is trusting the intuitive information and taking aligned action. Now, we're actually not going to teach a masterclass on each of these because key 1, if you have a pulse, you got it. Key number 2, we're going to start getting into today. And we'll be revisiting key number 2 as we go, because this is the one that you develop the best through action and doing it again and again and again. And then key number 3 is interpreting intuitive information accurately. This can take a little bit of work, a little bit of practice, but again, I've got some things up my sleeve. And then the 4th one, we dedicate 2 master classes to, because trust is a biggie. Trust is a biggie. And we're gonna get there. All right. So the one phrase that will halt your psychic progress in its tracks 100% of the time. I'm not even playing. I will not allow you to say this in my masterclass. If you want to say it to your friend. Don't say it to me, because I will have you rephrase. Right? I will. There is one secret phrase that if you use it, it absolutely will halt all of your progress as you go on your journey to develop your intuition, your psychic abilities. It will absolutely block you 100% of the time. And if you're ready to let go of that one block, go ahead and type I'm ready into the chat box so that I can share it with you. I guess you can see that little thing. Some of you could see what it was. So go ahead and type I'm ready. Good. We got some folks who are ready. Excellent. Excellent. Good. This is what I like to see. Okay, good. So we're going to move. Here's the one phrase that will halt you in your tracks every single time. I did not get any intuitive hits. I cannot tell you how many times I have heard this phrase. I've been training for 8 years. 8 years. When I first started my work as a professional psychic and energy healer, actually I wasn't even an energy healer at that point. I was terrified to mess up someone's energy. So I just read the energy and I was like, you're going to have to fix your energy yourself. I don't know what to do. But I trained people on their intuition from the day I started, right? My very first client didn't ask for a reading. She asked me to train her on her intuition. So my very first day one as a professional was me training people on their intuition. I've yet, in 8 years of doing this professionally, had anyone who didn't actually get an intuitive hit. But the number one phrase is, I didn't get any intuitive hits. People will say this because they don't recognize the intuitive hit. So here's why this blocks you 100% of the time. So this is really simple. Basically, what people are saying is when they say, I didn't get an intuitive hit, I just saw, felt, experienced something that I experience all the time. So just check, anytime you feel like you didn't get an intuitive hit, do you still have a pulse? If not, call 911, get it handled, right? But chances are you do. And if you have a pulse, then you are absolutely 100% of the time getting psychic information. It is hardwired into your physical body. Every single day that you are alive, you are automatically connected to source. You are automatically connected to spirit. You are automatically connected to your higher self with every beat of your heart, with every breath that you take. And so anytime you actually say, I didn't get any intuitive hits, you're telling your mind to not look for the intuitive hit. And that's why it's the number one block. That's why it's the number one block, because it actually shuts down your ability to recognize the intuitive hit as it's coming through. Now, you've been psychic your entire life. So your intuition, for the most part, isn't going to come with flash. It's not going to come with a marching band. It's not going to come with fireworks. It's going to come to you exactly like it did yesterday. It's going to be the exact same sensation, the exact same energy that you had yesterday, that you had last week, the last time you thought about this subject. The intuitive hit was probably exactly the same a couple days ago as it is today. And so it can feel familiar. So you want to expect it to feel familiar. So there are no fireworks at all with the intuition. That's not true. Most of the time, there are not fireworks with the intuition. Every once in a while, we'll get some fireworks and it's a lot of fun. We like it. It's like, woohoo, yay, thank you. That was super clear, guides. More fireworks, please. But they generally don't give you those fireworks. So here's the phrase you're going to replace it with. Anytime you get an intuitive hit, or you ask a question and you feel like you didn't get anything, you say to your guides, you say to the universe, hey, I didn't understand what my intuition is telling me. And you're going to expound on it. Here's what you say. Show me the same thing a different way. Show me the exact same message a different way. And this one phrase, when you use it to replace the I didn't get any intuitive hits, can transform your life. Go ahead and put in the comment box if you understand why that is. Like, go ahead and say, oh, okay, I see how that could be important. I understand. Mindset is helpful here. And I am going to check the chat box because I had a couple people chat. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, so it makes sense to Esther. Good. Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo love. I don't know what your actual name is, Scooby-Doo, but I like it. Kathy says, yes, stay open to receive. Good. Super useful says Zuska. Zuska, it's so nice to see you here. Makes perfect sense to Allison. Good. Good. Yes. And Sherry says, and she's accurate, it opens you up rather than closes you. Absolutely. And that is why, I wanted to start with this, because I've been doing this for 8 years. 8 years now. And this is the number one thing where people get stuck. They'll get an intuitive hit. It'll feel exactly the same as they felt yesterday. And then they'll try to convince me that they didn't get an intuitive hit. The first 3 years that I was doing this professionally, I thought, oh, well, maybe this person actually didn't get an intuitive hit. You know, I was open to that possibility. I was like, well, maybe they're just not getting intuitive hits. And, you know, maybe some people just aren't intuitive. I don't know. So I jumped on the phone with a bunch of people to figure it out. And what I discovered, they were getting intuitive hits. They just were used to getting them because everyone's been psychic their entire life. Okay, so any questions about that before we move on? We're going to get into a little bit of receiving. I'm going to talk about the physiology just a teeny bit. We're not going to get too technical today. All right, I don't see any questions. Actually, let me see if it's somewhat easy to check Facebook. If it's easy to check Facebook, I will. And if it's not, good. Excellent. Teresa shared my thing. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, so if you see anyone who you want to, if you want to share this video, you can. All right, I'm going to go ahead and move on. I want to keep the ball rolling. So key one, receiving. Now, I've already mentioned, we've been pretty clear about this. If you have a pulse, you're receiving intuitive information. Congratulations. And again, if you don't have a pulse, get off this call and call 911. Other than that, you're going to get intuitive hits. So we're going to talk very quickly about the 3 layers of conscious awareness. And I realize different places teach different things. They teach slightly different paradigms. That's one reason I'd like to be clear on how I teach it. There's this interesting thing in the spiritual world, especially whenever it comes to metaphysics. A lot of us don't have standardized definitions. Now, I tend to prefer to have really clear definitions. That's one thing you'll know about me is I'm very clear about the definitions that I use, and I can usually explain exactly what I mean and how I use those terms in my work. So the conscious mind, this is your most aware mind of your human body, right? So we're talking about the human body here. The conscious mind is your most aware mind, and it processes about 35 to 60 bits of information per second. People vary on what the numbers are. I've always kept it conservative. I keep it on the lower end of, pretty much the lowest end of what people say. And that's because the most conservative numbers are mind-blowing. So if it's more than that, that's even more mind-blowing, but we don't have to go there and worry about that. The subconscious mind is underneath the conscious level, but it talks to your conscious mind through symbols, and we'll get into symbols next time. It goes through feelings, impulses, and dreams. It can process about 10,000 bits of information per second, and the language it uses are symbols. That's one reason that a lot of people think it's hard to work with their intuition is they have dreams and they know their dreams might have meanings, but then they don't know exactly what it means. So how do they figure it out? But don't worry, we're going to talk about that. There's some really easy ways to figure it out. Then the unconscious mind is like the body processes. It includes all of the body processes. And this processes about 1 million bits of information per second, quite a bit more than that, depending on who you listen to. Again, I choose the most conservative numbers. Because there's no need to add flash. It's actually really amazing, even if you don't add any flash. And so what we're doing whenever we're working with our intuition is we're trying to bring the messages that are coming through energetically from the subconscious to the conscious so that you can actually work with it, right? And so how it works is spirit, whether it's your spirit guides, whether it's your higher self, whether it's the big you, it doesn't matter which entity you're attempting to connect with in the moment, but spirit in some form is the sender. It sends messages from the big you about your path and your best next steps. It sends it to your physical body. Your physical body is the actual receiver. It gets all of the energy, it gets the intuitive hits, and whenever it happens, it's still encoded energetically, right? So it's what happens is the body takes it, it's just pure energy at this point, and the body has to translate it into an energy that your body mind can understand. And so whenever that happens, it usually gives you symbols. It gives you internal feelings. It gives you an internal nudge or a sense of knowing or sounds that you will start to hear. And a lot of times those do need to get a little bit of interpretation. And then last but not least, the mind is the knower and the interpreter. The mind is what's going to focus on what needs to be focused on. So the mind is the one that's in charge of taking those messages and decoding them so that the meaning is clear and appropriate aligned action can be taken. Go ahead and press 1 if this makes sense to you. And if you have a question, press 2, and then that lets me know to kind of chill out for a second and make small talk while we're moving forward. Okay, good. We've got lots of 1s. All of this makes sense. Great. Excellent, excellent. Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to recognizing intuitive hits. Okay, so why you actually have your own psychic language. So you have been processing about 1 million bits of information per second since you were sentient, since you were a little child. Let's just pretend like the pre-3-year-old years didn't have a huge influence. Now, developmentally they do. But if you think of all the things that you were consciously aware of from 3 years old until now, that is amazing because you're at 31.5 million seconds every year, and you're getting 1 million bits of information per second. So every single second of your life, your body mind has been accumulating, it has been accumulating information. It's been accumulating perspectives. It has been sifting through the energies ever since you were born, right? That's a massive amount of information, which means your energy is going to speak to you in a very unique way. Now, there are a few ways that it speaks that are pretty normal, but it's still going to look a little different than anyone else's. So your body mind will not be wired the same as literally anyone else on the planet. Even if you have an identical twin, you will not have the same experiences. And so it's going to be using a unique language. If you have dream dictionaries, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not the be-all end-all of intuitive information. I actually very much like whenever people have dream dictionaries. I just don't like it whenever they start to rely on them for meanings and pretend like it's a literal meaning 100% of the time. There's always nuance. And this is also why, if you've ever been to multiple psychics and gotten slightly different messages, even though maybe you asked the same question or you were there at relatively the same amount of time, so like maybe within just a couple of weeks of it, and you got different messages, this is why. Every psychic will pick up their own unique gift. So for instance, for me, I pick up emotional energetic patterns. That's what I'm going to see almost 100% of the time. I was doing a training call with some trainee psychics last week, and we had one person who was picking up physical objects and important physical objects very clearly. And we had someone else who was getting very clear information about life path illumination. So she could actually see what they needed to know for the life path moving forward. And so every psychic has their own unique gift here, and so do you. So do you. Okay? And so that's why they have those slightly different languages. Okay. So how to access the wisdom of your body mind. Am I going too fast? Are y'all feeling good about this? One, if you're feeling good, and I just want to do a quick check-in here. Okay, good. Excellent. Everyone seems to be pretty happy with this. One-ish. Kathy's like, okay, so I'll slow down just a little bit, but not too much, because it looks like we've got one person who's feeling like it's a little bit more info. Good. Excellent. Okay, so I'm going to talk about how to access the wisdom of your body mind. Number one, you want to bring your awareness to information that's already there, and you want to quiet internal chatter. So basically, whenever you're working with your intuition, you want to bring your awareness to what's already here. And you also want to kind of quiet the little chattery mind that always has something to say, right? If you're like most people, your mind will come up with lots of things to talk about. It's like, did you pay the water bill on time? Oh, you're starting to relax. Did you know you could be worrying about money right now? Oh, you starting to feel good. Okay, what about that other thing that you wanted to do last week? Did you actually do that? Maybe we should feel bad about that instead of relaxing, right? So that's kind of what the body mind does. And you don't actually have to engage with any of those thoughts. You can have those little pings of, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something, or there was this thing that I intended to do, but I didn't get it done. You can let those thoughts go whenever you're consciously relaxing and consciously tuning into your intuition. And so I highly recommend for most people that you get a good meditation practice. Now, this doesn't have to be long. You don't have to go and meditate in silence for an hour or an hour and a half. 5-minute meditation is fine. It will do really good things for you. Anya, you can just press 1 or 2 into the chat. There's no special way to do it. So yeah, good question though. So you really want to have a healthy meditation practice. And again, like my way of doing a meditation practice is I have an audio that I listen to that is relaxing. It's binaural beats. And binaural beats are specific beats that happen in a frequency that allows your body mind to go into certain states. And I just put in my headphones and I do it as I'm crawling into bed about to go to sleep. And so I meditate right before I go to sleep, and it's wonderful. So you don't have to make it complicated. A lot of people love to do it first thing in the morning, and some people like to do it right before bed, and some people like to do it sometime during the day. It doesn't matter. I do recommend that you explore a healthy meditation practice. Okay, so let's talk about the 4 major psychic geniuses. Again, we're all going to have a little bit of our own psychic language, but they usually filter through these 4 main ways of experiencing the intuition. Clairvoyance is clear seeing. This means that in your mind's eye or with your physical eyes in some ways, that sometimes you will see images, you will see scenes unfold, you will see color swirls. Color swirls are important when talking with your intuition, just a heads up. And so you want to be conscious of what you are seeing, especially if you don't understand it. So, if you already understand it, it's easy to go, oh, that's my intuition, I want to do that. But whenever it comes to clairvoyance, you really want to pay attention to the images you do not yet understand. The ones that just seem to be an image for an image's sake, that you don't have an emotional pull to necessarily, because those are oftentimes really good intuitive hits. Clairaudience is clear hearing. You will hear voices inside your head, and it doesn't mean anything negative about your mental health. It's just the way the intuition speaks to you. We all have an internal voice. Clairaudient individuals tend to have louder internal voices than others. Clairsentience is clear feeling. So if you're an empath, that's a type of clairsentience. So clear feeling will come through emotions or sensations in the body. So empaths are a type of clairsentient. So that just means that if you're an empath, you're feeling emotions as your intuitive hit. And clairsentience is the one that we're all guaranteed to have, but whether or not it's the one you focus on is going to depend on how your gifts speak to you. Claircognizance is clear knowing. And so whenever you get a claircognizant hit, you simply know what the answer is, and you don't know where it came from. It will feel like a memory, even if you didn't know it 2 seconds ago. And it comes with its own sense of certainty. With claircognizance, you get an interesting dynamic where once you get the intuitive hit, it gets followed by pretty significant insecurities, right? Because this is what we call the claircog hangover. So you'll tune into the claircognizant hit, you'll get the sense of knowing, and then that sense of knowing is just supposed to be there for the intuitive hit. It goes away, and you're left with your human levels of confidence. And if the levels that spirit has of you of confidence and the ones that you have are different, you're going to feel that gap very significantly, and it's going to come forward. Your mind will start looking for all the ways that you are wrong, right? Because you're feeling insecure, you don't know why you're feeling insecure, your mind tries to find reasons. So anytime you get that sense of knowing, that's claircognizance. If you get insecure just immediately after the intuitive knowing, that just means that you got an accurate claircognizant hit. So that's a good thing to know. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise, which is good because my throat is ready for a little bit of a meditation. So go ahead and get relaxed. Go ahead and move your shoulders if you need to. And I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And for just a minute, just allow yourself to follow your breath. Just take a minute to get present in your physical body. You've got a lot of information that you just absorbed. So just feel into your body and allow yourself to return to an internal state. Focus inward. And allow yourself to see a beach in your mind's eye. Allow the image to appear as best you can. And now, as best you can, welcome the sound of the waves. Internally hear them as best you can. Allow yourself to feel the emotion of serenity and peace that is present on this beautiful beach. And feel the warm air on your skin. And allow yourself as best you can to feel certain that you can return to this image anytime you wish. Okay. When you're ready, just open your eyes and go ahead in the chat. Let me know, could you see the beach? Could you hear the waves? Could you feel the sun on your skin, or could you feel that emotion of peace? Or did you simply know any of those pieces, right? So for me, I'm heavily claircognizant, so I'll know a beach is there, but I won't visually see anything. So I don't see anything, but I know it's there. I can feel like the beach is present in front of me, even if I can't visually see it in my mind's eye. So go ahead and put in the comments box what you experienced there. Okay, good. Kara had all 4. Good, good. And then Anya said it was a beautiful place to visit. Good. And Cheryl saw, heard, and felt the warmth on her skin. Good job, Cheryl. And Kathy saw it and felt it, and it was a specific beach for her. Good job. Theodore saw it. The noise felt very low, just a little bit of warmth. Good. Good, Theodore. Sherry, I could see, hear, and feel, but based on the sight and sounds and images in real life. It's always more of a knowing. Yeah, that's common with claircognizance, Sherry. I get that sense of knowing, but I can usually barely, if at all, see it. Pernell, or is it Pernilla? You've taught me how to say your name once. Saw it shortly, but it disappeared. I felt it. Heard the waves, but no warmth on the skin. Good. Martina says, I could feel, smell, and hear. Good. Excellent. Allison could see and sort of hear it, not as successful in feeling the breeze. Underneath it is a knowing. Good, Allison. That means you're claircognizant and clairvoyant and clairaudient. Good. Excellent. So excellent, excellent. So you've got a lot of really good information here, and Scooby-Doo. I almost don't even want to ask what your real name is, Scooby-Doo, because I just like that you put Scooby-Doo as your name. But yeah, so good. Yeah, and you will notice some of them, Jessica says some are more clear than others. You will notice that there's 1 or 2 that are usually more clear than the others, and that tends to be your strongest intuitive gift. So for me, I'm very claircognizant, and then after that is empathic. And then after that is clairaudient, and clairvoyance is my least strong gift. I usually have to rely on dreams to get good intuitive info visually. But my dreams show up. They do it. They really do it. So I'm going to see if there's any comments that need. Excellent. Okay. Excellent, everyone. Okay, we are going to go ahead and move on here. I'm pretty excited. Um, okay. Beginner mistake alert. It's easy to fall into the trap where you think you can only have one psychic genius. I actually noticed, I don't think any of you who are here live did that. So if you're watching the replay, uh, that's normal, but it's nothing to worry about. Experts know that we're all special and have unique magic that is purely our own. That means that you might have a combination. You might have 3 of the 4. You might have 4 of the 4. You might have some days really strong empathic abilities or clairsentient abilities, and other days really strong claircognizant abilities. And every once in a rare while, you'll get a really strong clairvoyant image, right? So this is a very general rule that helps to point you in the right direction to start exploring these things. Help you recognize your intuitive hits. That way you can master your gifts so you can experience more than one psychic genius. But if you only experience one, guess what? That's plenty. You can get so far with just one intuitive hit, one intuitive modality, that it's just fine. You are not a less than intuitive in any way, shape, or form. If you needed more, you'd have it. So just genuinely trust yourself here. Okay. Any questions so far? We're going to touch on interpretation. We're not going to spend too much time on interpretation today. And then we're going to do a short meditation. I'm going to go over a lot of what we're doing next pretty quickly because I really want to make sure we have enough time to do one good solid hit before we get going. Yeah, Kara says, and this is very common, that having all 4 has been a bit confusing. It's easy to be skeptical that I'm making it up because it's so vivid. So that's very common. And Kara, I know you're at least somewhat claircognizant, so you really want to honor that claircognizance by, again, our last 2 master classes are going to talk about that self-trust and trust in the universe. So Esther says, what happens when things happen in your meditation that you didn't want? Esther, could you be a bit more specific? Are you talking like a dog or kids interrupting you? Or are you talking about like it feels like there's a negative entity that's trying to say hi? Because those are wildly different scenarios. Ooh, good question, Anya. So Anya asks, how is the beach meditation experience different from imagination? It's not. This is the really cool thing about the intuition. It's tied to your entire body mind, which means that your imagination is a vital piece of your intuition. So it's actually not a problem at all to have your imagination play a role, because your imagination will come up with the symbols that allows your intuition to speak to you. Now, if you're actively just daydreaming for the fun of it, that's just you playing with things. If you're specifically asking a question from the universe and your imagination is giving you an image, your imagination is working in tandem with your intuition. Anya, does that help? Does that make sense? So Esther says, in the meditation, I feel like the water's flowing over me when I didn't want it to, and I felt like I was drowning. Okay, good. That's intuitive information that you got before you actively asked for it, Esther. So I'm going to do a little bit, if all of you don't mind, I'm going to do a little bit of interpretation right now, because I think this is a very interesting symbol that popped up for you, Esther. So the water flowing over you, water almost always refers to emotions. And so the fact that the water felt like it was flowing over you whenever you didn't want it to and you felt like you were drowning, it's likely telling you that it's hard for you to feel at peace in your life right now, which is what I was attempting to guide you through in this exercise, because there's so many pieces of your life that feel like they're out of alignment. Right? And your emotions are incredibly strong about those situations right now in this moment. And it feels like those situations are going to take over versus you having control over it. Esther, let me know if that resonates, and then I'll give some next steps for you. And by the way, water and drowning is a very common image that you'll get in your dreams as well. So Esther says, yes, that's very accurate. Okay. So Basically, Esther, for you, whenever we actually go, we're going to do a little bit of a meditation in a bit. I would like you to ask your guides about how you can feel more at ease with your current situation. And so what's going to happen when you ask it is you're going to get that kind of panicky feeling first, let it come up. It's going to come up a few times, but just hold the question in mind until the panic starts to subside and something else comes forward. You may or may not understand what comes forward, but I really want you to focus on that today because that's going to give you some insight. Pernil, is it Pernilla? I feel like it's Pernilla, but correct me if I'm wrong. It says, follow up on Anya's question, can the ego imagine images, scenarios that's not the intuition? Yeah. So for instance, in twin flame or soulmate meditations and visualizations, absolutely, that's a really good thing to notice. So here's the very easy way to tell whether it's your intuition or your ego. As you focus on intuitive hit, you feel calmer, more centered, and more grounded. When you focus on intuitive hit, you feel calmer. We're going to put that we're going to do a new slide, actually, because this is such a big thing. So hold on. Come on. I know you can go faster. There we go. That's not how you spell wayward. There we go. Okay, so as you focus on it, the intuition will feel. So anytime you think you get an intuitive hit and you're not sure whether it's the intuition or something else, all you need to do is hold the intuitive hit in your mind, the image of the intuitive hit. And as you hold it, does it feel calmer? Does it feel grounded in your physical body? Which means, like, are you becoming aware of the energy running down? Do you feel more present in your physical body? Do you feel more at ease in your body and more peaceful? If as you focus on what you think is an intuitive hit, it gets calmer, it feels more grounded or more peaceful, then that's an intuitive hit, right? It comes with those feelings of calmness, the groundedness, the peace, etc. It soothes the nervous system. It doesn't hype it up. So that's an intuitive hit. Ego and a wayward imagination, and all of the variations of that, whether it's fear or flight of fancy, etc., is going to feel frenetic. It's going to feel flighty. It's going to feel anxious. The energy won't feel cohesive. So whenever you're focusing, if you feel more hyped up, even if it's excitement, but it doesn't feel grounded in the body, it's just like, ooh, I could do this, and then I could do that, and then I could do this other thing, and then if this thing happens, everything will be perfect, right? But you see how even that has the energy signature of anxiety or that lack of groundedness to it. Does that make sense? Does that resonate? Let me know. I'm going to see if I can't get this chat box back up. Okay. Okay, it's Pernilla. Good, good. Arden says, just want to double check, will replay be available? Yes, yes. No worries, Arden. It will be available. I like this. I like doing these trainings live, and I know that I can go a bit, I can go on a bit, but that's because I'm dedicated to answering questions. Good. So I pronounced Pernilla's name correctly. Allison, we're just talking about the intuitive hit versus the ego at this point. So, okay, good. Good. And then Kathy says it makes so much sense. Good. Okay. Now we're just going to take a few minutes to go over basics of interpretation. Thursday, in the next masterclass, we're going to go a lot deeper into the interpretation side of things. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that today. I'm not overly worried about you understanding your intuitive hits perfectly. One piece of actionable info is plenty, which is something we'll talk about at a different time anyway. Okay, so interpretation. Okay, we're going to go over this really quickly. You will get a replay. Feel free to pause and take notes if you're watching the replay. But for now, I am going to do just a quick overview. The clairvoyance is precognitive vision. You will literally see what's going to happen in the future. This is the rarest type of clairvoyant activity. It does happen, but it's generally not going to happen very often. Dreams are the most common type of clairvoyance. Almost everyone dreams, and usually we get images in dreams. Dreams are almost never literal. They're usually symbolic. Meditative visions, these are almost never literal. And seeing auras. So with physical eyes, they relate to the chakras. If you don't know what they are, don't worry about it. We're not covering that in this masterclass. They're basically energy centers in the physical body. They relate to the chakras. So if you start to see auras around people, if you look at someone and you see colors kind of waving around their body, Google the chakras or get my meditation. It's on my website for free. And you will be able to understand that pretty quickly. A major benefit of clairaudience is that you basically don't have a lot of interpretation most of the time. The clairaudient folks here will usually get a directive. It's like, go meditate more. And that can be really helpful. But it does make it a bit simpler. Information can come through in terse sentences, like go meditate more. And it can come through as a discussion. This usually develops, you'll get more discussion as you develop your clairaudience. And again, as a discussion happens, there's not a lot of interpretation. So if you've ever read any of the Abraham Hicks books, that is a type of clairaudience. They're having a discussion. The exception is song lyrics. So song lyrics will pop into your head in response to a question that you asked, and usually the lyrics will have a message for you about your life, and so you will want to interpret those. Again, we're not going to go into too much depth about that today. So basically, you just ask, what does this mean for me? And then whenever you have an insight, you apply it. Again, we're not going to take too much time on this today. I want us to get to a meditation here soon. And again, we've got 3 more master classes, so you're not missing anything. Clairsentience, I promise. We are going to be going into depth next time with these 4 different types of intuitive hits and how to do it. With clairsentience, you have sensations all the time. You incarnated as human, and this body has so many sensations all the freaking time. So you will have to learn to sort through it. So the best tip for clairsentient folks, including empaths, is to embrace the yes/no question. You do not have to ask a 5-paragraph question. You are not limited to asking only one question. Ask a dozen yes/no questions versus one lengthy question that is going to cause more than one sensation in your body. If this isn't a yes or no situation, if it's an option 1, option 2 type situation, you can do that too. So should I go running this morning or should I meditate? What's going to be best for my body? My body actually wanted to go running. I was going to meditate after this. Okay. All right. I'm not going to argue with my intuition today. So anyway, so option 1, option 2 is your friend if you're clairsentient. Claircognizance. You've got to understand your claircognizant hangover. That is your best friend, is understanding that the doubt that comes with the intuitive hit is a sign that you got an intuitive hit. That is your new BFF. It comes with its own sense of certainty. And once the psychic hit leaves, we've talked about this, you're left with your normal levels of confidence. So this gives you a confidence hangover. It's a certainty hangover. And so the best thing you can do as a claircognizant is work on that self-esteem. Work on your sense of worthiness. Work on that sense of self-deserving. And that's because once you work on those, your claircognizant hangover will start to diminish, and it becomes so easy to take action on your intuition. Now, this is good advice for everyone. Because most people who are highly sensitive tend to work to have some worthiness issues, just because we're highly sensitive. We want to make sure that we don't hurt anyone. We care about people. It kind of comes with the territory to worry that we're doing something wrong. But you are worthy of feeling good. So basically, you also want to work on recognizing the hangover as part of the accurate intuitive hit. And how to develop claircognizance, basically get into action as soon as you can. So if you get an intuitive hit, like the intuitive hit that I just got live while everyone was watching, that I need to go for a walk or a run, and that's more important than meditating right now, that means once I get off of this call and I make sure that there's no super urgent emails I need to do anything with, I'm going to be putting on my shoes and I'm going to walk to the beach, right? I'll put a selfie on Facebook. That way you can see me do my beach walk. And so basically, I want to take action on it, because the sooner I take action on the piece of information that I receive, that's me saying yes to my intuition. So anytime you get an intuitive hit from claircognizance, you want to take action as soon as you can. You can practice automatic writing, and you want to develop your confidence. And also ask rapid fire questions. This is a really cool one. You can prepare like 5 or 6 questions in advance. And you just kind of think, what questions do I have? You write your questions, and then you say, what's the answer? And you pretend like you don't have any doubt. You're going to have doubt. You're going to ignore it. You will ask yourself, what would the answer be if I felt perfectly confident, right? And you'll do that thing. Okay. Any questions about that before I move on to key 4, which I'm also going to go over as quickly as I reasonably can? I'm going to go ahead and come on, chat box. Share it with me. Okay. There we go. Okay. Okay. So Kathy says, I recognize that feeling of flightiness around something big I've been trying to accomplish. Really interesting, Kathy. Really interesting. Arden says, thank you so much. Could we turn off a certain gift at will? Yes and no, Arden. That's a really good question. Yes and no. You're not going to turn off your intuition, because, again, I said this at the beginning, and you might have missed it, but if you have a pulse, you have an intuition, you're going to get intuitive hits. That's the way it works. You can turn off a lot of your reactions to it. So, for instance, if you're an empath, it's one of those. So if you're an empath, let's say you go out in public and someone's having a bad day and you feel their anger, their frustration, their sadness, their grief, their guilt, and then you start feeling awful when you're walking next to them. A healthy empath, as soon as they're out of their energetic field, they feel completely back in their own sovereignty. They feel their own energy. They don't feel any of the remnants. Most empaths who have not worked on this will carry that guilt along indefinitely, who knows, until they get a reset, until something shakes them out of it, until they clear their energy, etc. So you do have a lot of influence with your intuitive gifts and how you experience it, but you're not going to ever turn it off completely. Okay, so good. Theodore says that he's okay so far, and he's going to review the replay again. Good. Okay, so moving along. How to choose just one psychic hit to follow. Most of the time we have way more intuitive hits than we can reasonably do anything with. That's because we're asking spirit for answers and it's giving us all the answers at once, right? So you will usually have a gap. You'll have clarity on what to do in many areas of your life, but you're still human and you will want to choose one thing in any given moment. So I really want you to practice over the next 2 weeks that we're playing together the law of least resistance. Take the piece of information that's easiest for you to follow through on right now, or the one that feels the most important right now. So just trust yourself and take the easy one, because you can always do more later, right? You can always add more things to it. When you notice that there are other psychic hits that are asking for your attention, just remind yourself that you will get to them all in divine timing, and you're focusing on this one for the moment. And then that way, 2 reasons I recommend this. Number one, sometimes I'll see people like try to change their entire life after one meditation. They'll be like, I have to change my relationship. I need to rearrange my entire house. I have to change my career. I have to change, and then it'll snowball. And then all of a sudden, they're paralyzed into inaction. So just choose one. Just choose one small thing that you can do today. Okay. And you also want to be compassionate with yourself. So part of the fun of taking baby steps is to just give yourself credit for what you're doing, right? Like self-kindness versus self-judgment. So this is like, bring some understanding to yourself, right? So these are taken from self-compassion expert, Dr. Kristen Neff. Self-kindness is where you say, oh, this has been a hard thing. You're going to do fine. Okay, well, you didn't quite do the thing that you meant to do, but you're going to try again and you'll get it right this time, right? Do you see how that's kind, even while it's holding you a little bit accountable without adding judgment? It's not like, okay, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you're a terrible person. Everyone is going to know that you're a terrible person, right? Like that's what self-judgment looks like. Not necessary. Think about common humanity versus isolation. No matter what you're going through, people have gone through that exact same thing at some point. So you're not alone, even if it feels like you're alone, or even if there's no one who you personally know who has gone through what you're feeling right now. You're not actually alone. And last but not least, mindfulness versus over-identification. So this is where you stay mindful of what's actually happening versus over-identifying with your problems, right? Over-identification with your problems will feel like your problems are personal. They say something about who you are or are not at your deepest core, not about bad behaviors that you can fix, but about who you are at your core. That's over-identification. It's not necessary. Be mindful that you can take appropriate action and that it's a learning curve and you're going to do great. Okay. Celebrating. We talked about this in the very beginning. Basically, the law of attraction says like attracts like, which means similar energy will attract similar energy. So celebrating is letting your mind and body know that this is important to you and you want more of it. This is you giving yourself permission to feel good. This is about you giving yourself permission to enjoy your wins as you go. And so if you're hard on yourself and mean to yourself, but what has or hasn't happened, it's going to be a lot harder. You can do it that way if you want, but it's not fun, and I generally don't recommend it. If you can celebrate your gains as you go, regardless of how big or small they are, then you are training your body and mind that this is important to you, this is celebration worthy, this is something that's worthy of your time, attention, and affection. So if you want to focus on whatever you're focusing on, your mind will bring you more of. So if you want it to bring you more psychic hits, then give it a little bit of love for doing that. Like, woohoo, I got a psychic hit. Good job, brain. I'm aware of it. Now I can do something about it, right? Okay. Are we ready? So quick recap. You receive intuitive information by being alive. Recognizing intuitive information is about taking the time to kind of feel through and recognizing which of the 4 clairs you are getting information through, whether it's one or all 4. Interpretation we'll talk about next time, but it's about taking the raw information you get and interpreting it accurately. And the 4th key we're going to talk about a lot over the next week, not yet, about trusting intuitive information and taking aligned action. So let me know, does all of this make sense to you? We're about to do a meditation. We're going to do a quick 5-minute meditation to get an intuitive hit. So I just want to do a quick check-in before we go. And good. Excellent. Excellent. Good. Oh, really good question from Lauren. I'm going to cover this. I won't spend too much time on this, Lauren, just because this is complicated. Lauren says, how do you follow your intuition when you have experienced trauma and your body is prone to saying no to things or shutting them out? So the number one thing that I recommend, if you've been through significant trauma, I highly recommend that you have a trauma-trained professional to assist you in helping the body release some of that trauma. A good therapist, EMDR, whatever feels good to you. Body work, lots of people have done a lot of work here. So I really recommend that piece. The second piece is whenever you have an intuitive hit and you know it's an intuitive hit and your body is too traumatized to take action, which might happen from time to time, then this is where you love up on the body itself, right? You ask, how can I support this body, mind in experiencing more safety? How can I help myself to experience more safety and comfort right now? And this is because trauma a lot of times will trigger our fight or flight or freeze mechanisms. And so if the intuition is calling you to do something that's actually kind of hard for you to do due to the trauma, then the best thing you can do is help the body to feel relaxed and then try again. But it's not about trying to force yourself into action here. This is about genuinely loving yourself. So the other thing you can do is you can tell your intuition, how can I get my body on board with this? How can I feel more safe and secure while pursuing the things that I feel called to do? So that's a great question to ask your intuition. And just like we talked about this before, let me see if I can't figure out where I put that slide. There we go. Intuitive hits versus the ego or wayward imagination. Whenever your trauma is giving you a really strong signal that feels like an intuitive hit, it will tend to feel like the ego or wayward imagination. It'll tend to feel frenetic or flighty or anxious. It'll have that adrenal response in it somewhere. It might freeze you. It might help you feel shut down. So really give yourself that self-compassion and that rest that you need, Lauren. Let me know if that helps. Let me know if that helps. Okay. Okay, good. Good. Yeah. And again, I'm a huge fan of getting a really high quality trauma trained professional to help the body release that trauma response. I've seen a lot of people let go of responses that they've had since they were children with a good, high quality professional. Now, I'm not your professional for that particular thing, just because I'm trauma informed, but I'm not trauma trained. But I do recommend that you find someone there if you can. Okay, are you ready for meditation? Go ahead and press 1 if you are. We're going to go ahead and do a meditation, and we're going to do, this is going to be a quick 2 to 3 minute meditation that I highly recommend that you do every day. Now, Esther already gave you a thing that I want you to ask. Everyone else, go ahead and ask, what do I most need to know today to, you're just going to leave it at that. What do I most need to know today? I'm going to put that here. All right, that's going to be your question. What do I most need to know today? And your intuition is going to give you the answer, okay? So allow yourself to get relaxed. Again, go ahead and shake those shoulders loose, do a little stretching if you need to. If you've been sitting for a bit, feel free to do a bit of a stretch. My hips are ready for that walk or run that my intuition told me about. Okay. So now, just allow yourself to close your eyes. And go ahead and put your hands over your heart. And just for the next few breaths, with each breath in, allow yourself to welcome a sense of well-being. You don't have to force it. If it's not there, don't worry about it, but welcome it. Invite it in. And welcome a sense of peace. And as best you can, just let that mind chatter be. If it's going, don't pay any attention to it. Listen to my voice instead. Let your mind do whatever it's doing and focus on my voice. Now set the intention that you are now open to intuitive guidance, and allow yourself to feel that you are open and you are ready for intuitive guidance. And now just ask, what do I most need to know today? And if an answer pops up that you think might be your mind or your ego, just hold the answer in your mind and see whether you feel calmer as you focus or less calm. If it feels like it's settling into your body, then that's a good intuitive hit, and feel free to write it down. And if you don't have it yet, just remain open and ask again, what do I most need to know today? And allow it to flow through however it does, whether it's an image, a sound, a feeling, or a knowing. Okay. And that is the entire exercise. I'm going to give it just a minute. If you got an intuitive hit, even if you don't fully understand it, go ahead and press 1 in the chat box. And if you need just a bit more time, go ahead and press 2. Okay, we're going to give it just a bit. Okay, take your time. We're not in a rush. We're not going anywhere. Okay, I'm going to give it about 1 more minute. And then if you do need more time, you can do this again on your own. And, again, there will be a little questionnaire I send out. Good. So I'll answer your question in just a minute, Anna. Really good question. Okay. So go ahead and open your eyes. And if you want to put in the chat box kind of what happened, if you want to share. And again, we're not working too much on interpretation today, but I did want you to practice getting an intuitive hit. And so just a reminder, let's go ahead and go up to this again. Okay. If you don't understand the message, keep in mind that you want to ask. If you don't understand, you want to say, show me the same thing a different way. Thank you, Arden. I'm so glad that you're able to join even part of it. So if you didn't understand your message after this call, sometime before the end of today, I want you to play with just asking your guides, asking the universe, show me the same message a different way, right? Just ask, show me the same message a different way. Because this is the number one thing that's the most important for us to pay attention to is when we think we're not getting an intuitive hit, we're actually getting an intuitive hit we don't understand. So Daniela asked, will there be a replay? Yes, there will. It probably won't be ready until this evening. And so, okay, I'm going to scroll up. I got a couple questions. So Anna says that her answer popped up before she finished asking the question. This is common with claircognizance, Anna. So anytime this happens, what you want to do is you want to hold the answer and see if your body feels more grounded as you hold the answer or if it feels less grounded. If you have a hyper mind or a mind that likes a lot of activity, it might just be really excited about giving you answers, but it could also be claircognizance. Claircognizance comes through the same way. So hold that answer in your mind, and if your body feels calmer, more whole, if it feels grounded, then that's how you know it's an intuitive hit, versus it being your mind just coming up with an answer. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, good. Esther says, I was told you are loved. And when I asked about my experience at the beach, I got a couple things that didn't feel intuitive, then something shooting very fast through the water to the surface. Okay. So Esther, the thing that was shooting to the surface is representing something that was below conscious awareness that's coming to your conscious awareness for recognition, honoring, dealing with. So especially since you were told you are loved, there's likely this part of you that's been feeling rejected or is afraid of being rejected that is contributing to your current feelings of overwhelm. So really work today as best you can on doing things that feel nourishing emotionally and loving to yourself. This doesn't mean denying any parts of reality that need to get handled. This isn't about avoiding healthy responsibility. This is about giving yourself love, which is the healthy, responsible thing to do. Let me know if that makes sense, Esther. Kathy says, how do I tell the difference between the ego, frenetic, slightly flighty feeling versus the number 4, clarity on many things and feeling frozen about which to do first? Okay, so Kathy, especially since you get a lot of intuitive hits, here's what I recommend for you. I recommend that you put all of the intuitive hits either on note cards. I get the same thing, by the way. This is my super secret way of organizing all of my intuitive hits, Kathy. So you're not alone. So I have all these little note cards. When I have too many intuitive hits or all of a sudden I have a to-do list for my intuition, I put everything on the cards that I already have commitments to. And then I add on new cards in a different color Sharpie with the things that came through. Excuse me, need a drink of water. And then I just really meditate while looking at it all. And I ask, where is the clarity? Like which one of these actually needs priority? Usually there's a priority issue. There's something that needs priority, and either your priorities aren't clear or you're overcommitted. Now, I don't know which one is the case. I suspect you might be overcommitted, and it might be time to let go of some previous commitments. So that's my best guess for you, Kathy. Anya says, I got an image of a tree with raining falling from it. I asked for more in a different way. I saw the rain was star-like, and the tree was more like a drawing. I don't understand it. Anya, you got a great intuitive hit. This is a good start. So tree usually represents, so there's a couple representations with tree. Trees can represent life, energy, the flow of energy through your physical body. And if the rain is dripping off of the tree, rain usually represents emotions. So water is emotions. So if your tree is dripping with emotions, it could mean that your body is feeling like it's too saturated in emotions and it's having a hard time feeling clear and vibrant. And if you asked it for it in a different way, the rain was star-like and the tree was more like a drawing. That means that the feeling of physical health or vibrancy might be feeling a bit more far away, and the rain is feeling more important, and like the emotions are out of reach, etc. By the way, this is not intuitive hit from your guides. This is me literally interpreting images based on how they're usually presented. So it may not land. And if it doesn't quite resonate on you, ignore it, right? I'm just giving you some possibilities to try on. So good. Leslie got you are loved too. That's wonderful. Esther says that it makes sense. Good. Cheryl says this was amazing. Kathy says yes, prioritizing, and yes, I'm overcommitted. Yeah, good. Good. So that makes sense to you. Good, Anya. I'm glad. Excellent. So I do recommend, if you get a lot of visuals, I recommend studying dreams and dream work, because it's really helpful. And if you can, get a dream dictionary. If you already have one, just look up some of the symbols that you get, because it'll likely give you a lot of insight. Even if it doesn't fully resonate, it'll give you some insight into what these different symbols mean. Okay, so that's our first call. This is pretty much it. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who has made it here. Oh no, that's the very beginning. I thought it was going to my last slides. Okay, where am I? There we go. There we go. Okay, thank you so much. So next time, we're going to demystify the mysterious. We're actually going to have the entire workshop on symbols. So we're going to do a very quick overview of what we talked about today, and then we're going to dive in and get some intuition to work with, and then we're going to spend some time doing the demystifying process. I'm going to talk about some common symbols. We'll talk about what it means, and it's going to be really great. So I really hope to see you there live. It's 11 a.m. on Thursday. If you're joining us live, and there will be a replay, technology willing. And if the technology craps out, I will do a call by myself, which isn't as much fun, to record. So no worries. No matter what happens, you will still get a replay. So thank you everyone for being here. I am so happy to have you. If you have friends who you think need to join us, make sure to share it with them. This is free. And so, I'd love to do this. Just share it with people and let's just have a party. All right. Thank you. And have a lovely rest of your day. It's nice having you, Scooby-Doo. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a beautiful time. And I will see you all next time.